So as I started this vlog halfway through the month, it's obviously going to be a bit of a shorter one as it's not a full month. So I thought I'd fill in the gaps by opening up a questionnaire on Instagram and seeing if you guys have any like burning questions you want to know about freelance life, design, studying, myself, lifestyle, like anything like that. So I got a good amount of questions. Woo! Okay, where do we start? Okay, so the very first one that I got is, what would you call your design style? And at first this really stumped me because I'm just like, who am I? What is my design style? What do I do? And I was talking over with Das last night, and I think overall I have this like overarching style which is like minimal, clean, memorable. Like that's what I always aim. Like whenever I'm doing any project, I feel like that's the like consistent style that I aim for, but the details come down to reflecting the brand that I'm working with. So if they're like a natural organic vibe, I will try and do natural hand-drawn organic styles. If they're more of a corporate vibe, I will do clean, flat graphic, digital vibe. So I think I'm very flexible in the way of what my design is. I hope that makes sense. I'm like losing my breath today. I've talked so much. I'm used to sitting behind a screen and like not talking all day and just typing away. So the next question is, how did you start the push for freelancing? How did you know when you were ready? Is when I got the taste of the design world, I always knew that I wanted to work for myself, but I knew it wouldn't happen overnight. So while I was studying, I applied for an internship, and I did that just by connecting with these guys that used to come into this cafe that I worked at. I asked if they needed an in-house designer. I was studying at the time. I was happy to do an internship. Ended up being a paid internship, which was amazing. Did not expect that. I was just doing 1 day a week while I was studying. And then when I finished studying, I had the opportunity to go on full time with them as their in-house graphic designer. But again, I knew I wanted to build up my freelance opportunities. So I went with a part-time job with them. Like that was my terms. And they're like, are you sure? And I was like, yes, I want to be part-time and I want to dedicate the remaining 2 days of my week to building up my freelance stuff. I was working 3 days a week at this place as an in-house graphic designer. I was working the weekends at a cafe, and my other 2 days and nights and anywhere in between I would dedicate to any freelance work that I could get my hands on. And that was very like spread out, not very consistent. I built it up probably over just over a year, that dynamic of part-time work, cafe work, and freelance life. Freelance stuff got its own momentum and it started to become more consistent, had more of a flow, so I just felt comfortable jumping into it. And I quit all my safe jobs and jumped into it full-time and branded myself as The Binding, because I wanted that to be this separate identity that I could take more seriously, because for me it just helps separate this and be like, okay, this is the business, this is what I'm doing. That was like these whole dynamics that led to the freelance life, which didn't happen overnight. A lot of hard work, a lot of getting out there and putting myself in the right ways of opportunities to come my way, and the freelance life I have been living for 3.5 years now, doing The Binding, which is really exciting. So that is my little journey to freelance life. Again, how did you start your business? I guess I'll talk about The Binding and my process behind creating this identity. So in my mind, I was just always freelancing under my own name. I wanted to have a space and this identity that I could build beyond myself. So thinking of if I wanted to become an agency or studio or physical studio where I could bring on more people, I didn't want them to be working under my name. I wanted the ability for it to grow beyond me. So that's where I had just like this, maybe like a couple of weeks and even a couple of months where I was like, who am I? What is this identity? What is this name that is going to represent me, my style, possibly a team, possibly a space, and all these future opportunities? And The Binding originally was going to just be a blog, and it was literally going to bind all my creative outlets. So that was going to be like obviously graphics, sewing, adventuring, just any creative projects that came up. It was going to be like a blog / services space. As soon as I pretty much did the site for that, I was like, wow, that is so confusing for anyone coming here. So I just went strictly back to it being like a graphic studio, and that is how the business was born. Just having that vision of where I wanted to grow beyond myself. That was really fun. So what programs do you use to organize your jobs and finance side of things? I've tried a lot of things, and I am a Trello girl. I love that you can just name the boards as what you want. Have a board for my week, so I have Monday to Friday and like a little side panel all set out. I will drag and drop all my tasks for each day into there, and recently I've just color coded them into like concept phase, revision phase, final phase, and other things that I put in there that are like admin or just like personal errands and stuff. I like mapping it all out and knowing what is ahead for my week. So that is how I kind of project plan. And then also have another Trello board that has my to-do, doing, done list, and that is split into the to-do list has the months that are currently coming up, so I can just have an overview of like the whole month or couple of months ahead. So I'm like, okay, I've got that coming up, la-di-da. So I've got the week breakdown, I've got the kind of like larger picture breakdown. And recently, after a few conversations with friends that were like, what are you doing with your finance? Not in a bad way, but just like they were using Xero and a few other platforms, and I just kind of was like, I was really happy with just using Excel sheets and Trello boards. I had my free boards. One was like invoices I knew that were coming up, invoices I'd sent, so still waiting on to be paid, and then a paid line. So I just kind of drag and drop them all around, so I always knew what was happening. And then I had an Excel sheet where I just literally would list all my invoices that were paid, which would have a monthly tally and then obviously a total year tally. And then I'd have all my expenses listed out and whatever else I needed to note down. That's been working perfectly fine for me and my accountants over the years. From this financial year, so in Australia our financial year starts mid-year, I have just started exploring some platforms. So I started off using FreshBooks. It was really good, but as we are joining the mortgage life, I'm just trying to like refine all these places that I probably could not spend money. So I ended up finding Waves app, which is a free alternative accounting system, and I love it. It's like you log on and you can see visually how much is coming in, how much is going out, what's due, all these things, and just automatically calculates everything, which is really nice. Like I still use my Trello board and my Excel sheet as double backups because I don't know, just a safety net, and that's what I'm used to, but it's really nice to have this system to just have a visual layout of like where you're at, profit, loss, what's due. You can have a scroll through your invoices. You can send people reminders with just like a click of the button. Yeah, it's really good. So I'm using that at the moment. I'm very minimal with like project management and platforms and systems that I use for finance and planning my life and my work, but I like that. I don't like to have too many things in too many different places, and like sometimes I would just write a list because I like the joy of ticking it off and it's like visually being like, yep, and done that. But then I'll also have the Trello board and just move that all around. So I think whatever works best for you, like don't feel the pressure to do something and don't force yourself if it doesn't work, because then it's just going to be jarring and make so much more of an effort. Find what works for you and stick to it and evolve if it makes sense as well. Do you have a morning routine? I get asked this a lot, like interviews or like just catching up with people. They're like, what do you do? Like, how do you organize things? What's your routine? What's your secret? I'm like, I actually don't have a morning routine. The only routine that I have every morning is I make a coffee. We have a coffee machine. That was the best investment we've ever made because first of all, saves so much money not buying coffee out every day, and like not having to leave the house and be in that like pre-coffee fog phase. I can like have my coffee at home, sit there, sip it in, take it in, enjoy it. So in a way, I guess that's my routine, but I love to just like listen to my body or my like where I'm at. So if I'm tired, sleep in a bit more. If I have energy, get up, or push myself if I'm feeling down to go to yoga or go for a walk or get out of the house before I start anything. Or sometimes if I'm really busy, I'll set the alarm really early and get up into work and have my coffee while I'm working. I work best when I have freedom, and the best thing I love about the freelance life is being able to choose what I want to do and how I do it. So yeah, I just have a very fluid morning/day plan. It's not really a plan, I just kind of listen and go. What does your average day look like, and how do you balance work and life? Again, like I said, not much of a planner in the sense I plan out what I know I need to get done, but I'm not like I get up and I do the walk and I do this and that's how I get into this routine. It's like listen and adapt. An average day and what I do can change so much depending on where I'm at with projects. So obviously if I'm in like the concept phase of projects, I have to be like glued to my screen and very like in that zone. If I'm at the stage where I'm having meetings with people, I might be out and about, jumping from cafe to cafe, or on the phone like having calls with people. Or sometimes like yesterday I might take half the day off and go floor shopping and do stuff with my boyfriend because he has the day off. Yeah, I listen to what I need to get done, how my body's feeling, and what I know will work out best with my to-do list. Sometimes I've just got a heap of energy in the morning. I've noticed that I'm a morning person, but I don't think I get my best work done in the morning. I think that's when I need to channel my energy into like getting out and about, going enjoying the day, going for a walk, or like catching up with a friend and just like releasing that energy there, I get this like weird afternoon kick into the night where I get a really good flow of work. I think it's because at nighttime I know no one's going to call me or email me. Like I don't need to respond to an email if it comes through. So I really can just like get locked into the task and get it done. So typical day, there is no typical day. Changes depending on what I'm working on, how I'm feeling, and what I need to get done that week. So how I balance out my life and work is with my Trello board. I try and list out in my to-do list for the day and for the week my personal and my work things that I need to get done, so just I know I'm getting proactive in both areas. But what I've really noticed is I think if you try and achieve this like amazing balance where everything's even all the time, that's when you kind of lose your mind, because it's never like that. I know that when I'm channeling more of my energy into my social life and into my life of family and friends and doing fun things, my work kind of suffers a bit, and vice versa. If I'm really busy with work and I'm channeling a lot of my energy and time into there, my social life, I just lose focus in that area because I've got this as a higher priority. I think as soon as we accept that and just know that whatever we're focusing on should be our focus and stop stressing about being everywhere and doing everything. So it's more of a like imbalanced accepting. I just plan it, like try and schedule in things. As soon as you leave the fun things or the work things to do in your spare time, it never happens. Spare time does not exist because you just like, oh, I can just keep working to whenever because I've got all this spare time. If you know you want to channel more time into your social life, plan it. If you know you want to put more into this side project or building up my freelance life, put it in your schedule. Like that is how you balance it out. We do sometimes need to prioritize ourselves and things that will benefit us by just like drawing boundaries and making sure we stick to it. And a way of doing that is maybe you tell people, like make them hold you accountable. Like that's why I voice things on social media. I voice things to people around me because then I feel like I have this thing in the back of my mind like, oh, I've got to prove it, or I need to like hold myself accountable because these people know I'm going to do it, or I'm bringing them along the journey and I want them to see this all come to life. So those are a few tips maybe of how you get balance or how you achieve things. How do you deal with difficult clients, like indecisive, changing their mind, and how do you help them? Yeah, difficult clients, they're a fun one. Like they definitely still happen to me, even though I've got a more consistent work. Like sometimes you can see the red flags, sometimes you get a bit naive and you still take them on even though you should have seen those red flags, and they become very difficult. I think there's two ways of doing it. Is you either suck it up and just know that it's probably not a project that you're going to promote or something that you don't want to be a part of moving forward, so you just get it over and done with and kind of deal with it, which can be really emotionally and creatively taxing. But sometimes that is a solution, not the best solution. Other times it is maybe just a matter of having that conversation and going, you know what, like there is this confusion, we seem to not be achieving everything. We seem to be presenting something to you and you always come back with I know you did that, but I had this vision of this. Like if they keep doing that, it's them who needs to refine their vision, not you who needs to refine whatever you're doing. So maybe you need to sit down with them and go, I feel like we're going around in circles, not achieving this goal. Maybe we need to map out a North Star so we both know where we're going. Whether that's having a set of questions that you ask them that help you become on the same page to them. So learning from that, like maybe that's something you need to put in place when you take on new clients, is ask these questions every time you get a new client, so you know that moving forward you've got these answers that help you both get on the same page. Yeah, I know that feeling where you just keep going around in circles and you feel like you're getting nowhere because it's indecisive. So I think people get so caught up with all the possibilities, which is fair enough. Like there are so many possibilities. And I think some people are so driven by trends, but trends don't always reflect the brand or the person or the whoever you're working with. So sometimes if we are the creatives or the designers or the professionals in whatever we do, we need to give them the guidance, giving them all the evidence of why you chose to go with that color or that typography or this detail, like because it reflects, you know, we went with this type of leaf because that happens to be in your product. And they're like, oh, I love that, like that's relevant to me, that reflects me. Like that's always exciting for people. Yeah, so having the set of questions when you're onboarding a client that helps you get on the same page, not being afraid to have the conversation halfway through to like get on the same North Star, on the same track, having the right questions and presentation of information when you hand over the concept, so you know, like, so they have the right reasoning and know where you're coming from, and not just like, sometimes they don't have that critical mind that we do when we're putting it together. We get to see the whole process of how we got there, but they just see this final product. So helping them see that process as well. Hope that helps. Do you have any formal design qualifications? Love your work. Cute, thank you. So I studied graphic design at TAFE. I don't even know what TAFE stands for. Tertiary something education. But I went to TAFE. I looked into going to some design colleges, to uni, all those different places. TAFE just made so much sense to me. It was one of those courses, it was the year I started it. It was a year full time, so we're doing 4 days a week. It had a balance of learning the programs and the practical side of design, like how we can translate these ideas into this digital thing. I was not tech savvy going into it, and so many people talk to me about that. They're like, I don't know how to use this. I'm like, that's exactly why you go through the course, because they teach you how to use these programs and refine your skills and think these ways to extract the right information from a brand to translate it into this identity that represents them. So did TAFE, highly recommend. It was so practical. Within 3 months of doing the course, that's when I applied to do the internship. So I felt job ready within 3 months of doing the course. I've spoken to people, obviously this is not everyone, but I've spoken to people that have done a uni course and they've spent 2 years just doing assignments writing on the theory of design. I'm like, yeah, we did do quite a bit of theory in there. We had this balance of practical and theory and blended it all together. But I just wanted to learn the skills. I wanted to be job ready. And continue every day. I'm learning something new. I read articles. I go to galleries. I read up on things, and I'm continually learning and evolving in that theory space. And I think we can do that at our own pace. Those extra 2 years I spent building connections, getting involved in the industry, and actually working my way up or around. So yeah, highly recommend looking into TAFE or just doing your research, looking into a course that suits you and your needs and what you want to get out of it. Maybe you do want to go into the more refined arts world and do all that stuff, but for me, I just wanted to be job ready and it suited me. So I did TAFE. I was based on the sunny coast when I was studying and met an amazing bunch of people through that course. One of the ladies that I studied with, I feel weird saying ladies, one of the gals that I studied with, we are still connected, and I actually outsourced work to her because we were just on such a similar level and we connected so well. One of the biggest things that I loved as well is that the teachers who ran the course were in the industry. They weren't just like, oh, I finished the course and then became a teacher. They had worked in so many different areas in the industry, and even while they was teaching us, they had their own businesses, so they could be giving us real life scenarios. And yeah, that was really nice to just ask their opinions on things that we needed to know within the industry. So that's my story of studying. Do you only work with or for brands that align to your aesthetic style? That's a good question, because I think in the early days, I took on anything. I was willing to work with the weirdest and randomest brands just because, first of all, I love just putting my skills into use across anything, but also at the beginning, beggars can't be choosers. You kind of got to take what you can in a way. So at the beginning, no, I didn't specifically align with brands or businesses that were my ideal style. I can probably touch on this a bit later. But I think that's a blessing and a curse, because I've still got businesses that from those early days that I don't align with, that I still kind of work with every now and then, and I'm like, oh, I'm not very inspired to work on this, but you're good people and I enjoy what you do. But yeah, so that's very interesting. They do stick around, so I think it's a balance. You want to be curating the people that you work with so that you can attract more of the like-minded stuff, so the people that you continue to work with still align with that. But at the same time, when you're at the beginning of your career, you just want to take on whatever you can as well. So yeah, I don't know. But now I'm at a point where I'm lucky enough to be attracting my dream client. I still work on stuff that I'm not proud of, or that not that I'm not proud of, but just aren't my dream jobs or aren't my dream style. So I don't particularly promote them because I don't want to attract more of those types of jobs. What you put out there is what you attract more of. So if you know you're working on this dream project, promote the shit out of that. If that's what you want to be doing, or if you're not attracting the right projects, put yourself a dream project together. If you know you want to be working with this industry or this type of style, or you love this color, or I don't know, something that you're really drawn to, have fun projects. I've had so many times that people have come to me and been like, I love this piece of your work, we want something like this, and it's something I whipped up on the weekend for fun because it was just what I was passionate about, but it helped me attract the right clients now. So yeah, I think I'm in a privileged position now where I'm attracting the right people, but at the beginning it wasn't always like that. Next question. Did you experience imposter syndrome when going into work or internships? 100%. I still feel it now. I still feel like I've cheated, or like someone's gonna catch me out, or like I've done something wrong, even though I've earned it and I put the hard work into it. But I just feel like, yeah, imposter syndrome is at every level of your career. And I can't remember the podcast or the video that I watched, but oh my god, I just forgot Seth Godin's name, and I had to write in marketing bald guy, and he came up, so that's a fun fact. So I watched listened to an amazing podcast with Seth Godin one time, and it was talking all about imposter syndrome, and I was just going through like a hectic batch of it, and I was like, I don't want to go forward, everyone's going to catch me out, I'm a fraud. And he said imposter syndrome is a good thing, because it means that we're pushing ourselves out of our comfort zones. When we're out of our comfort zones, that's when we feel uncomfortable, we feel like everyone's looking at us and like we're like this odd person because we feel like we don't fit in. But that means when we push ourselves into those situations, it means we're growing and evolving. So I think if you flip it around and see it as a positive thing, that will really help you. So yes, definitely felt imposter syndrome. That was a really good thing that helped me moving forward, just like channeling into this thing that it's a good thing, and it means that I'm pushing myself and not just getting comfortable. So yeah, when I had it, I continue to have it, but the reason why I connected with that so much is I think I've always had that inner feeling where it's like, if you have this fear or this like feeling where you just feel uncomfortable, I'm almost drawn to that, because I'm like, oh, like that feels weird, but I feel uncomfortable, but I know it's pushing me. So when I was going into these situations, I almost just like put in this other persona, not like faking anything, but I was like, I'm meant to be here, I've earned it, I know what I'm doing. And just like, if you keep spelling that out to yourself, you believe it and then you become it. Yeah, I think imposter syndrome can really rattle you and derail your career if you let it win, but it's all about mindset. If you know the person that you want to be, show up as that, or just keep having a few like one-liners that you keep reading out to yourself and being like, I'm deserving. Even maybe just stopping and looking back. I think we're always looking forward and be like, what's the next goal? Where am I pushing myself? But maybe we need to look back and be like, you know what? I've gone through this journey. I've earned my way here. Look at all the stuff I've done. And not in like a braggy way. Like this could totally be internal, but just like appreciating the effort and time that we have put into getting ourselves to where we are, and knowing that we earn it. And that's one thing that I've been going through a lot lately, is owning and appreciating where I'm at. And yeah, it's not an easy thing. I think especially in Australia, we have such this thing called like tall poppy syndrome, where anyone who's a bit taller or standing out is just cut down to like meet back to the level. And I think we're so scared to put ourselves out there to like do something new or do something different, which generally, like I said, if you're putting yourself in a new area, you get that imposter syndrome or that feeling of like, I'm uncomfortable and out of place. So channel it into a good thing. It's freaking hard, but it's all about mindset, and I believe in you. You can fucking do it. How do you get and keep great clients? So I guess like that comes down to what I was saying before, is what you put out there is what you attract more of. So refining the type of work that you put out there, or even just sitting down and being like, who is my dream client? What do I want to be working for? Where do I want to be? And just be like, okay, if that's where I want to be, what do I need to start putting out now? Or where do I need to be? Or where are my dream clients? Who are they? Like, where am I going to find them? Is it a matter of going to an event and like literally meeting with them in person and having that connection and then that turning into an opportunity later? Or are they going to find me on Instagram, or do they need to do their own research? And do I need to have all my information and my portfolio on my website so it's easy for them to find? So yeah, the easiest thing, but that was asking me how I do it. I think that's how I did it though. I just was like, this is my vibe, this is where I want to be. So I just like started being like, okay, this is how they're going to find me, or this is how I'm going to find them. Like sometimes like we're not going to get the dream opportunities sitting in our bedroom. It says me sitting in my bedroom filming a video. But yeah, we need to put ourselves out there. My biggest switching point in my career was like, just stop putting the word just in front of a designer. Like, I'm just a designer. Like, I am a designer and I have a strategic mind, and I can put myself in the right opportunities and places where I will cross paths with the right people and businesses that I want to be working with. And I also put the right work out on my social media and my website and so many other little places that I know that they can find me and do their own research as well. So that's how I attract and align and get the clients. And then once they have come on board, and how I keep them is I try and be a good person and do good work. Yeah, I've had clients, like my first ever client, which I will talk about because there's questions about that. I'm still working with him today. I definitely know that I have burnt some bridges because I've either been like too busy or just in a shit headspace and haven't probably given them the best experience, and that's how I've accidentally lost clients. And the ones that I can look at now and be like, yes, I have maintained you for many years and you keep coming back to me, thank you, is because I have done the good work, I've listened to them, I've given them the time, and yeah, do good work, do good things, be a good person. That's all I can say about that. How did you get your first design client? So, segue to my first client. So I'm just going to say this one is not a paid project. This is just going to be a design client, which ends up kind of being the same person. But I was at TAFE and we had a person come in who had a project and they wanted us to do a free logo. Or they wanted us to do a competition pretty much. I was like, shit, yeah, put me in that competition. So put together a design for them, and he liked the girl that I work with, or that we work together and I outsource work to. He liked her design and my design, so we kind of ended up working together and blending our designs to create the final logo for him. And that was like my first project, so I got that through TAFE. He ended up being very like involved in the design world, and just like, I was based on the Sunshine Coast when I was doing this, and he just kept putting on events for meetups for creatives, and I kept going to them and we kept crossing paths. But yeah, it just stemmed from entering in a competition at TAFE and then not just stopping there and be like, okay, I'm done with that, like going to events and meetups and continuing that relationship with him and other people in the community. So that was my first design client or design project. Do you get sore eyes or headaches from being on a screen? Do you have any tips? I do some days. Like my head will actually just be like cranking because it's not just staring at a screen. I think sometimes I'll be like in the worst light and staring at a screen, so my eyes are like wigging out. And obviously I'm like doing a late night project. I'm like in the dark with the like blaring screen at me. So I think optimal lighting really helps when you're staring at a screen all day. Taking breaks. Easier said than done sometimes, but I know when I take breaks, I feel so much better. So having a balance, whether that means you have lunch, like go sit down somewhere different. Don't take your phone with you. Fucking look at the sky, look outside, like have a break from a screen, whatever screen that might be. I have trained myself. I remember sitting in the classroom all day staring at a screen. That was overwhelming. So I got used to that just by doing it day in and day out. I don't know. I know there's like those glasses and stuff that have got the like blue reflective or the whatever the color reflective lenses are that help you translate it from screen to your eyes and brain and all that shit. So if you have any answers that I don't fill in, please, like below, if you have any cool ideas for not getting a sore eyes or head when staring at a screen all day, comment below. What tips do you give someone wanting to quit their 9-to-5 and work freelance? So it's true, like you speak to so many different people and everyone's like, just quit and go for it. And Adam J. Kurtz, you should actually find some videos on his talks. He's like, don't do that. Be practical. Have money. Because we do. At the end of the day, as much as we want to be creatives, like we got bills to pay and coffees to buy and all that kind of stuff. So I think if you know you want to become a freelancer, it doesn't just happen overnight. Like you can't just be like, I'm going to become a freelancer, and then you just quit your job and you're like, where are the clients? Like you need to build that up to a level where it's safe enough to jump into, or it doesn't have to be perfect, but you at least have some like confidence or something that's like, okay, this is something that I can follow and make full time. So if you're working full time, I know that's hard because obviously it's exhausting working all day and then having to come home and work. So maybe mapping out a realistic amount of projects that you can take on while you're full time. And if you continually keep hitting that mark, like that's evidence that it's enough for you to be like, imagine if that's what you're doing when you're only like partially putting time and energy into getting clients and doing that kind of work. Imagine if you're putting full-time energy into that. It does involve a bit of sacrifice. So if you're working Monday to Friday, maybe on a Sunday or Saturday, like that's when you need to be putting your social media content together, if that's a part of your plan, or going, you know, like mapping out the events that you want to go to. Or some of the connections I made in my early days really set the foundations for me to move forward in my career. So, and those connections I made by going to events. Say if you're a photographer, you want to be in the scene of taking photographs for surf brands. Where do you find these surf brands? Like maybe they're at surf film screenings, or maybe they have stores around and you can just go hand business cards out, or like meetups, I don't know, just like go surfing and find people that work in that industry, or just like figuring out who your ideal person is and figuring out where they are and aligning with them. Yeah, so that is one way to make connections and build up an amount of work that can help you jump into the freelance life. Another idea is maybe putting aside a day and making a mock-up brief or project. So again, if you know you want to work with a surf brand, like maybe you have a surfboard or surfwear or something like that that you want to capture, and you can like see the ideal vibe, like go do it. Like get some friends together, do some flat lays, I don't know, whatever you end up wanting to do. Make the project, put it on your platforms or wherever you know that you can cross paths with them, or where you can use it as a showcase, as a portfolio, and they're going to be able to see your ability and themselves in that scenario. Yeah, that's a couple of ways of how you can maybe get some more clients or opportunities on board. So then I think once you get that one foot in the door, the momentum starts, and you just got to be like, capture that momentum, run with it. Don't stop there, like keep going to the events, keep doing those mock-up projects until you keep hitting these amazing clients. That's a good thing as well. If you're ever wanting to pivot in your career and you feel like you keep attracting the same stuff and you get really bored with it, like do a mock-up project in that new direction you want to go. Like I'll just get in a phase where I'm like doing a lot of logos or a lot of websites. I'm like, I'd love to do some packaging, so like why don't I remind people of this project I did a few years ago, which was like totally in line with the style I want to keep doing. So just like you repost old work that you've done to remind people, oh yeah, I can do this. And then I'll like get some inquiries of like those particular jobs. So you can, I don't want to use the word manipulate, but you can strategically keep in mind like you have the power and the ability to direct where you go in your career, because what you put out there is what you attract more of. I think that's the common theme, and I say that a lot, but it's true. What is your safe zone? Do you need to be covering, do you have this many bills per week, per month, whatever, that you need to be covering? Like what is your safety net or your level of flow of work or opportunities that you need to have to make it a smart decision for you to quit your 9-to-5 and jump into freelance life? I've just finished my graphic design course and I'm wanting to start freelancing. So much talking. I think it's pretty much just a carry on of how I just answered that previous question. If you have just finished studying, it's so dependent on like where you're at with life. Like, do you have bills that you need to cover? Are you living at home, and do you have the ability of like have that privilege of having a bit of maybe a spare time and not as many overheads? So if you're in that position where you are at home, or you're in a place where you have a lot of time, like set your priorities, set the time aside. Things don't happen in your spare time. You need to be like, this is my goal every day or every how often. This is what I need to get done to attract these or align with these opportunities. So do you have an Instagram? Do you have a website? Do you have events that you can go to align with these opportunities? Also, sometimes I know if your goal is freelancing, you're like, I just need to go into the freelance life. But you can learn so much by working under someone else's wing or for another company as an in-house designer or an outsourced designer or whatever. So are there opportunities out there that maybe you can take on part-time that will help you put your skills into use, and you can kind of be under someone else's wing and learn and evolve under that, but also be filling up your spare time with freelance opportunities? Like maybe that's an opportunity as well. Little fun story. So when I did that internship that turned into my part-time job that I then built the freelance stuff on the side, I was working with like an amazing team. So it was an email software company, tech startup vibes. There was like the dev team, the marketing team, finance team, and then like a lot of like CEOs and managers and all that kind of stuff. I was the one designer. I was studying and learning and like getting thrown so much stuff my way as the in-house designer. I had to just overcome that imposter syndrome and be like, okay, I can do this, suck it up, get it done, prove them that you can do it by doing it well. So because I was working under all these different branches within the company, I just got so many little like insights into like the marketing and strategic mind. Like I would create this thing and be like, oh, I just got to create this pretty banner, and like her name was Adeline, like I respect her so much. She would just like critique me so much, and I love that. Like it's scary as fuck, but she was like, okay, so you created this, but like think about the person who's going to come here and click on this button, like that button should be this color to help like attract this, or like this wording should be here, or let's make this color that, and like not just be like, oh, I'm creating a pretty picture, which sometimes you can just get taught that's all you do at design school. Having a bit more of a strategic mind. And I don't think I would have learnt that if I just went out on my own freelancing first. So yeah, if your goal is to freelance, sometimes it is always nice to go work under someone else and get these little tidbits that you might not get working on your own. Also, I got to work with the developers, so that was really cool, seeing how like I would map up these mock-ups, see them build it, and then be like, okay, the reality is like this looks pretty, but this is how we need it to function, or this is these like working within boundaries is very surprisingly, it pushes you. You have to think strategically, have this goal, make it look good, make it be on brand, make it function. Like, I love that. It's such an exciting challenge. And working with a team environment is really fun. Like, working for myself, yes, I get to work with my clients and I get to collaborate, and I'm lucky that I've surrounded myself and created this community where I don't feel alone, but it can get lonely. I'm working at home by myself most of the time. So starting out in your career, working with people around you can be really nice to push you, and also like opportunities came out of that wouldn't have happened working from home by myself as well. The startup world, as much as sometimes I despise it because it can be quite toxic, it is an open environment where they are willing to try, especially if they're in the early stages of a startup. They're willing to evolve, they're willing to listen to you, they're willing to try new things, and that was a really nice environment as a designer to be in, and be known that like I could put wacky ideas in front and they would be like, shit, yeah, let's do that. Or they would critique me in a smart way, not to be like, nah, that's shit. So I was very, very fortunate that I had that opportunity. So yeah, there's a few things for you to think about there with your freelance life stuff. I'm not saying that you can't go out on your own. If that's what you want to do, go do it, and you have a clear vision. Put that shit in place to make it happen. Build the foundations now so that you'll be thankful later on. Taylor from the Sunshine Coast, she goes, not a question, I'm just excited for this. Thanks, Taylor. What did you study? How did you find like-minded, aligned with your values and clients? I guess that's a blend of everything I've kind of been saying. Studied graphic design at TAFE on the sunny coast, loved it. Did my research before, so I really knew that it suited my goals and what I wanted to be doing. How did you find, this is kind of weird, how did you find like-minded / aligned with your values clients? What you put out there is what you attract. I think that's my common message here, is how I found like-minded clients and aligned values is, I guess I've promoted my values and my aesthetic so that they would connect with that. And I didn't do that be like, oh, I'm going to put this out there because it's going to find me this person. It's just like, it felt right to share that, and that's truly what I believe in, and that's what I do. And I guess people can see that and they want to work with me for that. But I'm going to answer this in a way which it could also be interpreted as, how did you find like-minded like people around you? Is I went and worked under a company for a bit, so that was really good to meet people through there. I went and worked in co-working spaces as well, because I love working from home. I really get in a good rhythm, but also sometimes I just need that connection, which you don't get when you work from home. And also just having that banter and like feeling like you're a part of something. And same thing, getting insights into industries and people and like expertise that you're like, oh, I haven't thought about that, but like thanks for letting me know about that. That like now I can take that on to my process. So yeah, workspaces, working at another company, going to meetups, and all types of meetups as well, not just meetups within my expertise like of design. I went to meetups of like tech, startups, small businesses. I was just an event nerd. People probably know that up there. Like, I just went to everything, and not in a way that I just like wanted to be seen or do anything like that. Like, I just wanted to cross paths with people, and I love hearing about the different things that people are doing. And I never went to these events with the intention of like, I'm going to find this person and get this from them, or I'm going to get this opportunity. I went there because I was just willing to learn and willing to like meet new people, and if nothing came from any of those events, like, cool. It was still, I'm sure I like learnt something, or like happy that I got out of the house or something like that. So yeah, good to put yourself out there. How do you deal with clients who think design is magic and don't think your work is work? Obviously at the beginning you're just in that mindset where you'll say yes to anything. Sometimes that leads to opportunities and clients that aren't the best, so I totally understand that. Like, how do you deal with them? I think it's a matter of educating them and just being like, when you present the work, talk through the process that led you to that point. Like, don't just be like, here's a pretty thing, like, what do you think? Like, of course they're just going to think that you whipped it up in a second. Present the work and talk through your whole process so they know the time and effort and thought that went into it. So helping educate them. So if they don't respect it, then they're not worth working with, because if you work with them, you might attract more of those people, which we don't want to do. So second tip is, if this happens to you, or if you don't want this to happen to you, there's things you can put in place to prevent getting these types of people. And I think that's looking at the red flags when someone inquires. So if they're inquiring and using language that doesn't respect what you do, I think that's a red flag. And I think also, like, I do this, like, what I've learned when people come to me now, like, I will map out everything I do and be like, this is the time frame, this is what's involved, this is my creative process, like, so then they know that everything that goes into it, and it's not just magic of creating something pretty. Like, there's a lot of technical and creative aspects that go into what I do. Respect that shit. Same person. Obviously you've got some clients that you're not happy with. When clients' ideas and wants are so vague, or their ideas are simply stolen from a brand. Okay. So when they are vague, I don't think you should go through with a project yet. If you're both feeling like you're not on the same page yet, you're going to get to that previous question that we talked about earlier, where you just keep going back and forth in circles of you're not really achieving anything because you don't know what you're trying to achieve. So don't move forward with the project until you've got clarity, or you're both on the same page. Again, this could be asking the right questions, so you know what is the ultimate goal, what are you trying to achieve. Even get some, this is where it's going to come into play, even get some examples of benchmarks of what they have in mind, so visually you can be like, sweet, that's your vibe, this is your ideal client, here's what I think we should do. So if they're coming to you and just being like, I love what this brand does, let's do that, that's where we need to come in and put our foot down and go, you know what, this design work is reflective of me as well. I'm not going to go copy someone else's stuff. There's just so many layers to that. Like, morally, that's fucked up. Like, you came to me because you saw my style or you saw my ability, so let's use that to create something that's unique to you. Like, I get that that's the vibe that you like, but let's take into consideration your target market, your goal, what your product actually does, like, how do you benefit your people, your point of difference, like, how can we show that in whatever I'm designing, say it's a logo. If they are just wanting to copy, like, no, do not go there. Like, that is wrong on so many levels. Every brand has their own story that needs to be told, and it's unique for so many different reasons. There's so many different ways we can show that, and we don't need to just go copy someone else's, because that's obviously unique to them, and I hope it is unique to them and not just copied from someone else. So yeah, I highly recommend don't move forward with someone who just wants to copy other people, because that's probably how they came up with their product as well. Like, they probably just copied someone else if they were willing to copy someone else's brand. Big red flag. No. How do you book your clients? However they got into my inbox for me to be able to quote them, that's how their own journey to get there. So once they do that, I normally have a few questions either in the form or that I will ask them once they've initially inquired. Like I was saying before, asking all the right questions so we can get on the same page, so I know how to quote them. Like, each project is unique, so I need to quote to that unique process that I'm going to be working with. So I will get the right information, send a quote to them, talk through the process, timeframes, and the soonest I can take it on, and other details that come with whatever their project involves, making sure we're both on the same page. I will then send them a 50% deposit before I move forward with any project. Once they've paid the deposit, I'll put them into my Trello board and add them to my list of to-dos. What was your first client project? So earlier I talked about the guy that came into TAFE. We did that competition my friend and I won to work on the final logo for him. That was for, I think that was for one of the meetup groups, so that logo was going to represent that group. And went to a heap of meetups, kept crossing paths with him. He then started a cafe and a coffee roastery, which I did the logo for, and we had a few meetings. Oh my god, funny story. If you ever need a confirming story about no one has any idea how to price themselves, this is the story. So he came to me with the brief. I was like, shit yeah, let me help you with that logo. We met up, got the brief, put together a few concepts. We still hadn't talked about pricing at this point. I was like, I don't know, let's just do it. Yep, okay, let's move forward. Sat down with him and presented the concepts, which I don't do now. I normally just email with the detailed information. I think he, at that meeting, was like, how how much is this? I was like, I literally froze. I was like, I don't know, how much do you want to pay? I asked him how much he wanted to pay for a logo. He ended up getting that logo for $80, which I would never do now, but at the time I was fucking stoked with. First paid client job. From that I learned there's a lot of time and effort that goes into a logo, and $80 is not reflective of that, but stoked with that at the time. So he was my first project, creating the logo for his cafe, which still goes now. So he was my first client out of TAFE 2015. Holy shit, it's 2019. So over 4 years ago, that was my first client, my first paying client, which stemmed from a previous connection and keeping that relationship going. So put yourself out there and connect with the right people. How much of your work comes through your website? Where I'm at now, about like 90% of my work comes through my website. So I think a lot of the time people find out about me from previous clients, so referrals. They must come to my Instagram or my website, look at my work and be like, that's my gal. Go to my inquiry form and inquire through there. So that's one way, or they just have followed my journey and started their own business and realized that that's what they need and inquire through the website. So I think people getting to the website to inquire, that's a totally like, everyone goes through their own journey. Any inquiries I get through my Instagram DMs, I tend to not go for. I'm just like, if you can't go to my website and fill out my form and put that little bit of extra information or effort in, I'm like, do I want to work with you? If it's the right person and they've like, you know, put a lot of effort into it, they specifically know what I do, who I am, put that effort into the DM, I will reply and probably tell them to end up emailing me. But if someone just DMs me on Insta and is like, need a logo, how much? Like, I'm not going to reply to that. How many proposals don't go ahead? That's a good question. I think you can kind of tell the ones that aren't going to go ahead. Same thing, if they filled in the form and they're just like really being like, need a logo, how much? They're just worried about the exchange in pricing, not in value of like what you're giving, and they're not giving you the right information for you to be able to quote them properly. So I think you can tell which projects aren't going to go ahead sometimes because they're probably not willing to invest in it. I put my prices up like mid this year again, just because I was like overflowed with work. Majority of them were saying yes, and I'd put the price to a point where I was like, oh, this is a lot. I'm gonna scare people off, or I've like put in these boundaries that will help refine the amount of people I get and the projects I get. And just so people kept saying yes, and I was like, I didn't know what to do. I just kept saying yes. So then I was working way too much because I didn't know how to say no. I didn't know how to figure that out. So bumped up my prices again, and I've been smarter with the amount of projects I take on, meaning like, okay, I know I've got this on at the moment, so I realistically can't start a new project until this date. And some people will try and push me to start earlier, but I'm like, if I end up saying yes, I'm going to let someone else down that I'm currently working for, or I'm going to let you down because I can't meet those targets that you want, like timeframes that you want. So a lot of the times I'm just like, you know what, as much as I would love to, I really can't start before this date because of blah blah blah. And like a lot of the times some like people respect that, and they're like, oh, okay, like that totally makes sense, like I am actually willing to wait. And you're like, why did you push me? But anyway, yeah, so like 50-60% of projects go ahead, and to be honest, I don't want all of them to go ahead sometimes, so it works out fine. And speaking of that, there was a project last month that I got really excited about, and I literally like told so many people, not so many, I told a few people. I was like, oh my god, dream client, dream brief, can't wait to work on this. And they just kind of like disappeared when it came to the point where they're like meant to pay the deposit, and even they were excited. But again, in saying that, I've had people that have been, we've both been excited, like mapped it all out, it's ready to go, and then they kind of disappear, and you're like, oh, that's never gonna happen. And then a couple of months later they're like, oh my god, I'm so sorry, like life, like fair enough, life got in the way, or doing this part of our business took up our time, or we just like lost contact, but we'd love to move ahead. So yeah, sometimes there is hope in a project going ahead even though it doesn't go ahead straight away. The Corner Palm. Love you guys. They're a co-working space in Byron that I did branding for, and I love to go to them whenever I have spare time. And she goes, how are you so cool? I'm not going to answer that because you guys are cool and I love you. What did you study? Graphic design at TAFE, which I answered a few questions back. Did you study or self-teach to become a graphic designer? Which would you recommend? Obviously, from previous answers, I studied. I think you can teach yourself the skills. Just like anything, you can learn the skills, but I just really enjoyed working in a classroom environment. I just love the dynamic of having people around me and a teacher to always be like, you know, when you're working on something, you can be like, like you look at someone, you're like, oh, that's cool, like I never knew you could do it that way, or that little keyboard shortcut that you might not have known about. I personally learn well from that. I don't think there's anything wrong with being self-taught. I hope that that doesn't limit you in your career path. I really don't think people care about the piece of paper anymore. I hope they don't. Like if you've got the skills, the talent, the mindset that gets to the same destination that someone who went through university or a TAFE course did, and you're maybe just as good as them, like you should have just as much opportunity. But I just hope it doesn't limit you. I think it comes down to how you learn best. If you're good at learning by yourself, sweet, go do that. If you work better in a class environment like me, do that. Just be aware if you're applying for jobs, they might care about the piece of paper, which is insane if you can do it even though you're self-taught or taught in the system. Say if you're self-taught and then you go do a lot of freelance stuff, and you can use that as a portfolio or a proving point to get a job without having the piece of paper. Like that might be your way around it. But yeah, I think that comes down to personal preference. So I think that's kind of up to you to decide, but I hope that helps. Do you stress as a freelancer looking for work, or is it constant? At the beginning, definitely wasn't as consistent, but I don't think I put that pressure on myself to find, or force myself to take on projects or find too much stuff, because I had the safety net of having a job. So I worked part-time in-house as a graphic designer, worked at the cafe on the weekends, and then had the other 2 days I would dedicate to my freelance life. Yeah, I wasn't that stressed about it. I just kind of let that flow, and I can see how it can be stressful if you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself for that to work out, which is why I was giving the recommendation earlier about if you are wanting to jump into freelance, make sure you tick off those boxes that make sure it is a safe jump. I'm lucky at the moment where I have a constant flow. Not lucky, I hate using the word lucky because it's not luck that got me here, it's fucking hard work. But I am in a position now where I have a constant flow of work. But I still get stressed because it's just like, I don't know, am I going to be old news one day? Like, is my style not going to resonate with people? Imposter syndrome, you have all these thoughts that go through your mind, even though I've got evidence. Like, I've got 7 quotes I need to reply to after I finish this. And I might be filling up the rest of the year with work, but I'm still stressed that like one day it's just going to dry up. And I think that's why I got in that phase where I just kept taking on so much work and overloading myself, because I was like, oh my God, it's going to dry up. I need to just do it all now. Otherwise these opportunities are going to stop. And they didn't stop. So yeah, still stressed in a sense that like it's unrealistic stress, but it is constant at the moment. But it took all those planting on the right seeds earlier in my career to get to this point. How did you start? How did you get clients starting out in comparison to now? So what I said earlier, I put all those things in place to help me align with the right opportunities, went to events, put stuff on social media, just like told everyone what I did. Like even when I was working at the cafe, I was like, I'm a designer. What are you doing? That's how I met those guys and got that internship. You just have to stop thinking about how people perceive you and like think of it as embarrassing. Like if you want an opportunity, put yourself in front of it, go tell people. Aligning yourself with those opportunities at the beginning, but now I feel like it's kind of switched and a lot of them come to me because I have reputation, referrals, lots of seeds planted for people to discover me. Oh, you're funny. I don't know if I should answer this, but one of my besties, she goes, budgeting, saving, how to get a deposit, how to get that balance. Like obviously my partner and I just bought a unit, saved our asses off over the past year, and got a deposit to get our own place. I'm going to talk more about that over on the Essentials Club channel when I do the whole reno video and kind of intro into how we got the property and the deposit and just like the world behind buying your first place and getting a loan and all these things that you find out along the way. I found it to be such a fascinating project. There were really stressful bits and there was a lot of bits that I'm like, this is sweet, I love it. So if you want to find out more about that, go to my Essentials Club channel and I'll talk more about that. So I feel like that has answered all my Insta questions that I put out there. Again, if I maybe didn't answer something and you have any insight, put it below if you have any further questions. But I hope that helped. I'm going to continue capturing the life of freelance life, studio, creative processes, just anything that happens over this next month. If there's anything that you want to know more about or if this excites you, please subscribe, let me know. You can follow me at all my channels below, look at my website. all that stuff. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this is like helpful for you in your journey as well. I know that I just like researched everything when I was starting out. You're just like, how do I do this? What do I do? It can be overwhelming and exciting, so I just want to uncover the behind the scenes of running your own studio and working for yourself. So hope you enjoy it. I'm Maddie from The Binding, and thank you for being here.